Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today we are doing a brand new Make Up Your Mind. So oh my goodness, there's so many eyeshadow palettes releasing, guys. I've got a list. Let me know if there is one you want me to do down below, because I have a list already going of new palette launches for holiday that I need to do a Make Up Your Mind on. And today we're going to be tackling the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Primrose palette. So this is launching, I believe it's going to be tomorrow. So it actually came at us pretty quick. I had been seeing the images of this for quite some time, but literally it was like one day to the next. It was like, hey, guess what? We're launching it tomorrow. But you guys know, just because this new palette is launching, it doesn't mean that we all need to pick it up. So what I'm going to do is try to mimic the color story, and you guys know that the reason I do this is because I want to see if there is a palette that has a very similar color story, see how many times I have this over in my collection, or even to see if I like the idea of this palette before I decide to pick it up. At the end of the video, I do tell you guys whether I decide to pick it up or not, but this is an exciting one. Anastasia has not released a palette in quite some time, and this one is not just a palette. It looks like it's a palette slash face duo. So I did find the colors that are supposed to be part of the face as well in eyeshadows to get an idea of what I thought of them. But anyways, if you are not subscribed to the channel, I would love it if you would want to hit subscribe, join the family. I do Make Up Your Minds all the time for you guys, and I think you guys really enjoy it. So anyways, let's go ahead, let's break it down, and let's get into it right now. So it looks like this palette is actually going to be retailing for $55 US. That's a little bit of an increase from the last time I saw Anastasia palettes. Weren't they like around 45 and then they went to like 48? Now they're 55. So this is slight price increase, so more reason to look through my collection and see if I have this color story. But anyways, let me go ahead and show you guys what I did, and this is my results. This is what I came up with. I did have a pretty, I would say this was not a very difficult palette to find. I will say that I was working on this one and the new Pat McGrath, which is coming. I believe that'll be the next one that you guys will see from me, but I feel like this one was not very difficult to find. I actually winged through this pretty quickly, so I think that we may all have something similar in our collections. But let me show you guys the palettes that I used. I did jump into a few to really match the colors perfectly. The first one is from Marc Jacobs. Do you guys remember this beauty from Marc Jacobs? I forgot the name of it. Fantascene. And I will tell you, this color story is quite similar. I also jumped into New Nude, so from Huda Beauty. This palette has been used so much lately. I feel like with all these very neutral yet rosy tone palettes that are releasing, this palette has like literally revived itself. So if you had this palette, I hope you guys have pulled it out of your archives and started using it again. And then finally, the palette that I used the most was from Too Faced, and this is the Bear, what was it called? It's the Teddy Bear. The Teddy Bear eyeshadow palette from Too Faced is the one that I actually used the most, and it is also the colors that I used on my eyes today, which are similar colors to what you're going to be getting in the new Anastasia palette. So if you guys want to see how I created this eye look, I will have it up on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. And like I said before, very similar idea to what you will be able to get from Anastasia. So those are the palettes that I primarily went into, but let's go ahead and let's get into it. And let's start off with the very first color. So for the first color, so this color is actually going to be the one that I believe it's probably like a bronzery shade. I'm thinking it's going to be a bronzery shade. So what I ended up doing was going inside of the Too Faced palette. And inside of this palette, they actually do have something that looks quite similar. I do think that the one in the Anastasia may actually even go a little bit more on the orangey side, but this was pretty close. So I went into this color right here in the bottom. Now, actually, this could actually be a blush. You know, I think that maybe these are going to be used as blushes more than bronzers. So I take that back. I believe these are going to be two blushes. So this is the color that I ended up using. And I do think that this actually would probably be a pretty like bronzy blush shade. It has like a little bit of pink in it. So that's why I'm thinking that it would probably work really nice as a blush more than a bronzer. Because as a bronzer, it might get you a little bit too rosy colored. And looking at the swatch, I believe it's going to be close to to this color. Yeah, first color I like. I think it's a very pretty color, and it's actually one of the colors I use a lot when I use this Too Faced palette. For the next one, I jumped into Marc Jacobs, and this is actually a palette, guys, that, believe it or not, I hardly ever use. I hardly ever use this palette, and honestly, the truth is, it's just, if for me, it's just like one of those palettes you need to add into another palette. So for this one, what I ended up doing was grabbing into this third shade right here, and this is another one that I believe is going to be like their blush shade. It's like a very light pink, and it's called Grapefruit in the brand new palette. I think it's gonna look similar to this color. It's gonna be like a pale blush pink. I think it could look really nice on the lids. I also think it'll look really nice on the eyes, and I do think that these two colors together will make a nice color combination. So far, it's starting off extremely safe and easy. Next one, I jumped into Too Faced once again, color right here. So now this one, in my opinion, looks like it is a redder version of a color that you will also see in this palette towards the end. And I think that this could be a really nice color. I actually think that inside the new Anastasia one, this one might even be a little bit more red toned. And that's gonna look really nice with these other tones that you're seeing right here. So far, it looks like a very easy peasy, simple wimple. Is that even like, I don't know, I'm not very good with those sayings. It's like a very easy palette. Let's just leave it at that. So for the next one, what I did was I jumped into the Too Faced palette again, and I jumped into this color. So this color, actually, when it swatches, it looks a lot more orangey tone than it does inside the palette. So I do think it's gonna be similar to this, and if anything, I actually hope that it has a little bit more peach, because if it has more peach to it, it could actually even be even more beautiful than this color right here. So this peachy tone is a great, it's an amazing like base shade. You could use it like kind of like to blend out other shadows, and it just gives like this lightness and gives like a needed accent. And I really love these peachy shades. Like, to me, it's like one of those colors that people don't realize that like you need it in every palette. Like, you need a peachy shade in every palette. Nobody says that but me. And I really love that one. It's so pretty. So for the next one, this is the one that I used everywhere. Like, this is what I used on my entire eye today. And it's actually this color right here from the Too Faced palette. And it's this one at the end. It's such a pretty color. Oh my goodness. I love this. This is like the deep berry version of this one up here. This one went a little bit more red. This one goes a little bit more berry. And I think it's gonna look similar to this. I'm gonna build up the swatch just a tad so you could see it better. This Too Faced palette has not been the best swatcher, but it's amazing on the lids. So that's like kind of like the color. I think it's gonna look similar to that. I really like this color. Like you guys can see, I did this halo eye basically with that color, and it was such a rich, beautiful color. And mixing it with this one that we talked about before, the peachy tone as like the blender shade, is a really good color combination. So far, color combination, really nice. Okay, so for the next one, so this is like the main color in this palette. It's called Primrose. What I did was I did a little combination of this one and the color Tease. So if you mix them together, I feel like you're getting a really close color. So actually, probably Tease on its own also would be very close. But I do think like when you mix those two together, it kind of creates a very similar tone, and I guess it just depends on how deep you want it. You can add a little bit more of this color right here called Tease from the new nude to kind of just make it a little bit more rich, but it has a very similar vibe, and it's also a very nice color. This plum color right above it, that's kind of like a real deep berry, that's kind of like a deep berry, almost like a plum, mixed with this one is just gorgeous. So those are two beautiful combinations, as well as the gold, which you guys will see coming up really soon. And actually the next color is also a color that works really good with the berries that they included, which is this color right here. And it's kind of like a bronze, but more on the yellow side, and I like this color. This is such a beautiful color. It is one of the colors that I actually like from the Marc Jacobs palette. So anytime I want to use the Marc Jacobs palette, I tend to usually grab that one as a highlight shade. It's very pretty. And I mean a highlight like I mean in the eye look, like kind of like an accent detail. And yeah, you guys can already see how this color can mix with a bunch of the other colors. So I do think so far, Color Story is very consistent, very easy to use. Nothing like out of this world though, but very easy to use. The next color, I jumped into Too Faced again, and I grabbed into this more gold color. So I feel like they gave us like a yellowy, bronzy gold, and then they gave us more of the real gold. And if you want to make this one just a little bit more on the yellowy side, you can grab a little bit of this color right here, just put it on top and just blend them together until it gets to that perfect color that you want. But that one to me is more of like a true gold. I feel like that color is one of those colors that you see in a lot of palettes. A lot of brands give us golds nowadays, and it is the gold that I did use on my lids today, so you guys can see how it translates a little bit more on the gold side, and I do like it. I think it's very pretty. So the next color is another really nice transitional shade, and it's this one called Raw. I feel like I can use this color a bunch of different ways. I can use it as a blending shade. I also can use it as a deepening shade. Just depends on the kind of look that you're doing and how rich you want the look to be. But that color is a very universally used color. Like, I feel like this is another shade, very easy to use, matches a lot of the other colors very, very well, and very consistent, very Anastasia. I feel like this palette is like a nod to like the soft glam, like it's like a nod to that. I'll show you guys what I mean towards the end. I didn't use the soft glam in today's video because I felt like the colors were almost there, but not identical, but I do think that they're very, very, very close. So for the next color, I jumped into the Marc Jacobs palette again, and I grabbed into this one. It's kind of a more cool tone taupe. It's a really, really pretty color. It looks really nice with the pinks, so I do see why they included this color. It's gonna look awesome with a lot of like the pinky hues. It'll also look really good with the purples. Very easy blending shade, something that's kind of close to my skin tone. So if you have a skin tone close to mine, this one will probably be like that color that you use mostly to blend and maybe does not appear on everybody's skin. Then the next one, another one from this palette right here, I jumped into this fourth shade right here, and this is more of like a pinky metallic, really pretty. Also another color that's very reminiscent to me of Soft Glam. Very, very pretty. I do think that I would use this color, maybe not that much to be honest, because I'm not like a huge like pink lid girl. And this is a softer pink, but I feel like the one that's gonna be in the palette might be a little bit more pink. So that color to me is like pretty, but I almost feel like I like the Soft Glam version just a tad bit better. So then the last shade in here is going to be this color right here. Jumped into Huda Beauty's New Nude for this color. So now this color, when you swatch it, it actually comes off a little bit more pink peach, and I think it's going to be something similar to that. It actually might have a little bit more pink in it, but as I was swatching a bunch of different palettes, I felt like the pink ones went way too pink, and this one just had that perfect amount of peach in it to keep it soft. So that's why I ended up with this color, and basically that rounds out what I think this palette is going to look like based off of the swatches. And I am going to tell you guys that I like the color story. But here's my biggest problem. I do feel like I used a lot of shades from this palette right here. So like this palette dominated a lot of these shades. So truthfully, I like this color story. You guys know that I kind of had a moment there that I was loving these real paler palettes because I felt like everything that was coming out was a certain kind of palette. Now I feel like this is being done so much that I'm getting a little tired of it. We just saw Fenty come out with it. We've seen Pat McGrath come out with different versions of this for a while. So I'm starting to get a little tired of these like rosy, very simple palettes, and actually Too Faced just did it too. So I picked this one up. Juicy, the Tarte Juicy palette did it. And this palette here has a very similar vibe. Like these are not identical, but these have very similar vibes. And I just feel like I just picked this up, hardly have used it. And I bet you a lot of you guys who picked this up have noticed that you haven't used it either, because it's just like, it's an easy to use palette, but with all of this like new stuff keeps coming out, it's very hard to keep track of using all these things. Another palette that was very similar and kind of scares me because I never use this palette is this one. So this palette has a very similar vibe, and I'm going to tell you guys, this palette is hardly used by me. Hardly, hardly, hardly. And I don't even know why. I just always felt like this palette needed more. I think that the new one from Anastasia might have that more that was needed in the Marc Jacobs to actually make it a more useful palette. And I do think that the New Nude from Huda Beauty has a similar look. This one may get your looks more pink, whereas this one, I think the looks can go different directions. It might have a little bit more of a brown base to it, so you might be able to do less pink looks with this palette. Now, my biggest issue here, okay, so besides the fact that I think that the Teddy Bear palette has a very, very similar idea, you also have the two blushes. Look at the two blushes. So this was like a very similar idea to the Anastasia, and I literally just picked this up. My biggest thing is that I feel like this is such a nod to the Soft Glam. I know that they're not identical, so these are not going to be identical palettes. They don't even have colors that are like super the same. But it's almost like if they got Soft Glam and went just a little bit softer and a little pinker. And let's be honest, and the truth is, guys, the reason I love the Soft Glam so much is because it gave us some rich tones over here to really like amplify those looks. So I felt like it was super versatile. It was like, you gave me like a very subtle palette, but then you gave me the drama. I could go so many directions with this guy right here. It's just, this is like one of the best palettes I think Anastasia has ever come out with. And this is like kind of like a nod to this, just not as good. Like not as good color story wise. So I do like the little blush shades, and I do like that it goes more in a burgundy direction, which Soft Glam does not. And that might be where the difference is, that you're going to get like more burgundy-ish plum, and you'll be able to play with those type of colors a little bit more. But I have this thing that since I have Soft Glam and since I have this palette right here, I feel like I have a majority of the colors inside of the new palette from Anastasia. And the Teddy Bear palette, this was actually really good quality. I think this was like one of the first palettes that Too Faced actually made in Italy, and you can tell a big difference in the quality of the shadows. This is a very good palette. Just not that used, but very good. And Soft Glam's like amazing. So I can't say like I want this palette because of the formula, because unless Anastasia has completely revamped her formula, it really wouldn't be for that. It would be more for color story, and I can't say that this color story has me entirely intrigued. So I am going to say that I personally would make up my mind and say this one is a total skip over, and I really do not need it. Now, because I do review makeup on YouTube, and I do know that some of you guys are probably very interested to see if her formula is the same, if it's consistent, if it has changed, because Anastasia has kind of been gone for a while. If you guys really want me to pick up this palette for review purposes, I will do that. So just go ahead and sound off down below. If a lot of you guys are interested and a lot of you guys want to see it, I will pick it up. But like I will tell you guys, just based off a color story and not physically having this thing in my hand, which obviously makes everybody always be like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Just looking at the color story and just looking at everything and just like seeing it just for what it is, it does not excite me. So that is where I'm standing with it right now. I also have to take into consideration that it's a $55 eyeshadow palette that does not look to me like it has any special formulas in it. It looks to me like the special thing that they did was include the blushes, which I kind of have in the Too Faced palette. And I'm going to tell you guys, I do not use the blushes in this palette as blush. Like, not because they're not beautiful, it's just unless I'm traveling, I don't see the need to do that, because I have some amazing blushes from other brands that I just usually just open those blushes and use it. So I don't know, that is just my opinion on it. That's my opinion on the color story, and that's how I feel. So I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think? Start sounding off down below, tell me everything, and tell me if you guys want me to pick this up or not. And I have an exciting thing that's coming, which is the Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey. I'm going to be doing my Make Up Your Mind on that one coming next. So definitely put on your notifications for that video, because I have some really interesting comments on that palette as well. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.